Welcome to today's edition of Weather to Watch. In the immediate future, we're talking about a big transition to very cold air and our first little storm system that could produce a band of snow, what we would call a clipper snow. We'll talk about both of those things, plus the fact that the cold won't last very long. All that coming up. Hi, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. I am originally from Chicago, so this is kind of an interesting little thing that used to happen to us up there, even as early as the early part of November. This is the GFS model of what the weather map will look like on noon Saturday. So you'll notice there's a low pressure area right here. And then we have precipitation types. So the narrow green here is rain, and then this is all snow back here. So what's interesting here, Chicago. So what's interesting is if you watch what happens with this low, only in 24 hours. So that was noon Saturday. This is noon Sunday. It's almost off the map, right over almost Erie, Pennsylvania. So the low will have tracked in 24 hours like this. So one of the reasons it's called a clipper system is because it moves very fast. And the other reason that the nickname for clipper exists is because these are usually reserved for storms that come out of either the due west like this one does, or actually come out of the northwest a lot of times. They usually, though, are fast-moving lows that may develop into something bigger later on, but during their lifetime, they just move very quickly and are fairly well-defined, but not real deep. So what's that going to have? Now, you notice there's still snow on the back end of this. So what effect will that have? Well, at least according to this model, through Saturday, so this would imply late Friday, early Saturday, maybe a couple of inches of snow, an inch and a half, maybe two, there through northwestern Iowa, parts of Minnesota. And if I fast forward this, again, a mere 24 hours, you can see this little clipper system moves very quickly, lays down some good snow. Again, this would be something that would excite the kids in Chicago thinking we would get out of school. That wouldn't be nearly enough, of course, to do it up there. It would take a blizzard to do that. In more northern latitudes, the bar is raised differently for snow. But notice this thing kicks in, at least according to this model, and produces 5-inch snow totals there north of Detroit. So that could happen. Again, it's one model's opinion, but it does look as if the northern end of that precipitation cap with that low will produce some snow over the weekend in that area. Well, I've labeled this transition as fall weather, which is interesting because I'm starting out by showing you tomorrow's high temperatures, which are well into the 50s and 60s in the northern plains, which for November, early November, is very warm. How much above normal? Look for the deeper reds. So everything along the western high plains there, very much above normal. The only slightly below normal temperatures are in the northeast and through parts of California. Fast forward this to Saturday, and you can start to see that this cool air snap that the snow is starting right here on the leading edge, I recall. So we're starting to see temperatures really take a nosedive, including highs only above freezing and 28 degrees there in northern North Dakota. And you can certainly see it's getting cooler fast. I'm going to change gears here. This is the National Weather Service forecast officially for these locations, and that's where we get the colors too. It's compared to normal. So Texas is above normal still. And then this is a GFS model. So I really wanted to show you this because it really shows the extent of the cold on Sunday afternoon. Now, I live in Springfield, Missouri now, so we're going to be 18 degrees above the normal high temperature for this time of year. So you can see the true extent of this cold area. This just uses really neat colors to show it, really. And so that's, I think, Sunday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. Then we go back to the National Weather Service look at this, and this is Monday morning. Notice we have lows in the teens in North Dakota and South Dakota. Pretty cold. And that the freezing line, the green to blue, dives all the way into North Texas, about halfway through Mississippi and Alabama, and maybe as far as Atlanta, Georgia. And those areas would be new to the freeze. Most of these areas here have already had it, including this part of the world too. Then one more map we'll look at on this temperature odyssey. Here is Monday's highs. So again, the high temperatures will only be in the 40s and even 30s through a significant chunk of the east central U.S. and parts of the plains as well. I'll pick one station here. This happens to be Nashville. All this does is compare the various short and medium range models here. They all have those initials, and they group together pretty well. Now, that's why I see the NAM stops here. That's why the red line doesn't go getting any further out into the future than Saturday evening right here. But then these other models go quite a bit out. So you're noticing high temperatures in Nashville on Monday will only be in the mid to upper 40s. Now, having said all that, if we look at the weeklies for the EPS model, this is the basically the ensemble model run by the European model. And by the way, I didn't correct the date on this. Sorry, that's not right. But it begins a couple of days ago and goes through all of this week. Well, I show it to you because actually the trend for the week after this cold snap is for things to warm up pretty significantly, where the 500 millibar flow is forecast to rise like a ridge of high pressure there. And those are fairly high heights for that area for this time of year. And look at the temperature pattern for that same period. Despite the fact I just showed you that massively cold blob here, if you go through all of this week and into the next, it does look as if it's really going to be dominated again by warm air. And this fact is also reflected in the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So that's Tuesday through Saturday of next week, where we have this high confidence of a really above normal pattern. Then the cold air can be seen exiting the eastern U.S. But again, kind of a roller coaster seesaw kind of thing is what you should get used to as we start getting into the transition from fall to winter. We get a lot of turnaround, cold snaps, and then warm-ups as that seesaw continues to go back and forth. Well, here's the visible satellite loop on this Wednesday afternoon. I'd say much of the country is actually clear. We do have this sweeping area of clouds here I'll review in a second, and also a pretty stormy looking pattern here, including what appears to be a pretty large circulation. You can just tell by the shape of the curves of the clouds that this isn't some mini little low. It's a pretty big deal. And the southeast quiet, south central quiet, most of the Great Plains quiet. Here's the 500 millibar flow. Again, we have, which is characteristic of getting into a fall, almost winter pattern now, where we have very strong winds blowing when those red lines are packed tightly together. Trough of low pressure here, another one off the map. And so sometimes I show this, I show what the correlation between the surface features and the upper level features are. So, and this always works. So you'll see a low on the east side of troughs aloft. So that's exactly where that low is positioned here today. You'll see a high on the east side of ridges, which that's right here, and it's showing up on cue. And then, again, pretty stormy out here. We'll take a look at that in closer detail in a second. Let's first go to the northeast. This is temperature plot. This is model estimated at 4 o'clock. That should be Central Standard Time, by the way. And we're looking at temperatures ahead of this low right here. And that's not the same low that's going to produce the snow. Completely different. This is the first one. So temperatures in Boston 50s and 60s, showing up close to 70 degrees there through North Carolina. And then a little bit of cool air coming in behind this low. But again, nothing as strong as what I just got through showing you. That'll be reserved for the next front. And then we'll fly out to the northwest. Here's Seattle. Here's Portland. Those guys are in the upper 50s, close to 60. Very deep low, 28.5 inches of mercury in the northeastern Pacific there. So again, very characteristic of this time of year to have those deep low pressure systems. Sometimes they come ashore. A lot of times they just die there. They become occluded. And then these weather systems just keep coming ashore one after another and produce heavier snows and higher elevations and rains. So in other words, it's becoming the rainy season, especially the more north you head, Seattle and Portland, those areas. And then as we get deeper into the season, it starts to slip southward into California as well. Well, there usually isn't a whole lot to talk about in severe weather, but in this particular case, ahead of that push of cold air, there is a level 2 risk of severe weather in Nashville, parts of Kentucky, maybe fringe areas of Mississippi and Alabama, and even the slight risk, or that's a slight risk, is yellow. The marginal risk is the green. That extends in even a larger area. And again, this is for Friday ahead of that next weather system. If we look at the learning model, so the tornado risk is there, not real high, but it's 2% is basically the green in almost the exact area I just talked about. And there's a little bit of hail and high wind risk with this as well. It's just indicative of the fact that it's a strong front, and there will be enough time for instability to build out ahead of that to the point where a couple of severe storms could occur in that area on Friday. In terms of heavy rain, or at least water equivalent, I say that because when you look at charts like this is rain, yes, but it's also how much liquid you would have if any snow that occurred were melted down, just so we're clear on that. So really you can see, look at this. First of all, the snow and rain area, mostly snow, can be seen right there, that little clipper system, and it's leaving a snail trail in the precipitation forecast. And then it ramps up in the northeast, and then lots of precipitation in the northwest, as we discussed with that atmospheric river, just the jet stream supplying a constant stream of humidity to that part of the world. Now, total precipitation over the next 5 days in the Northeast, again, that's going to be inch to an inch and a half, perhaps, in some of the areas of New York, Pennsylvania, those areas, maybe Maine. And then shifting our gaze off to the northwest, the yellows are 4 inches of rain. So if you did a water equivalency on that, that would be quite a bit of snow in the higher elevations. You're talking about 30 inches more if that comes to pass, and even higher totals as you go up into British Columbia. Again, the 6 to 10 day outlook, which starts Tuesday of next week, does show that the west will be wet. And remember I said that pattern was initially affecting these areas? Well, after that 5 day I just showed you, the wet weather shifts. So that low in the upper atmosphere is deepening out here and causing that major influx of moisture to shift southward a little bit to areas of California. Meanwhile, it's going to be, I think, pretty dry. At least they have a high confidence of it being so through the central and southeastern U.S. Well, there's actually no chance of tropical activity in the Atlantic. The forecasts are dry 1, 2, 3 weeks out into the future. So I figured I'd wrap up the 25 hurricane season here. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be a wrap. The last storm, and it was a monstrosity of a storm. And actually, I didn't update that map to show the final path of Melissa. Of course, it hit Jamaica and then curved this way. But the number is right. We have 13, and then, of course, Melissa is a major hurricane, could be a record-breaking hurricane in wind speed. Certainly in pressure, it ranks right up there in the Atlantic basin. So it was named storms, 13 total. The forecast was 13 to 18 this season. It's probably a number we'll stick with, even though the official season still goes here for a while. But these are all just statistical labels that we put on things. Number of hurricanes, named hurricanes 5, and out of those, 4 of them were major storms. And if there is another one in our future, its name would go Nestor. And the final thing I'll look at here is the November temperature outlook that was issued, I think, on about the 20th of October or so, which showed a high confidence of warm weather in the southwest and in Texas, and no real area of confidence for cool weather, and then forecasting above normal precipitation in the northern plains. If all goes according to what I'm showing you here, it could be that they may update this and extend that down a little bit with the pattern evolving the way it is with higher precipitation totals in these areas I just circled that have already been established here for about the next week and a half or so. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.